Hey everybody, how's it going? So today's video is a bit of a depressing one. I do apologize for that, but it's just something I think is worth mentioning. So there was this news article that came out about a kid that was hit in the head apparently by people who were being dared and paid $1 for each time they hit him in the head. And apparently he died, which is not a surprising outcome for if you give people money to hit someone in the brain. It's just death. And one of the things that I wanted to go over here is this one statement at the end of it. It said the Department of Education called its death a tragedy in a recent statement. Safety of our young people is the absolute priority, and this incident will be thoroughly investigated. And we are providing... No, you don't. No, you don't. I went through the New York City public school system. I'm fully aware of how many blind eyes get turned to all sorts of stuff like this. You know, as I've mentioned in an old video on this channel, I was one of the skinniest and smallest kids in my class. Like when I was in third grade, there were first graders that could beat me up. I was very, very small, very, very skinny. And it wasn't when I was close to graduating high school, I was this height at 103 pounds. So, you know, I remember I started hitting the gym around senior year, and I bulked up to around 140 something pounds. And I remember, I mentioned in an old video, I saw a junior high school bully transferred to my school very close to graduation. It was really weird. And, you know, he went to push me in the hallway. Crazy thing happened. When that happened, I used to fall down, and this time I didn't move, and then I just wound up tossing him down the stairwell. And I also saw this happen with other kids in regular basis. And one of the things that used to get me, it wasn't that bullying would occur. It wasn't that you would see, that, like, you know, watching the bullying happen. What really drove me nuts is when you would see that someone else knew what was going on and they didn't give a shit. They didn't do anything, you know, like, or let's say you would hear the sounds of a punch while the teacher was writing. The teacher would turn around and say, "Stop that." Then she'd hear laughing. She'd go back to writing. She would hear a punch, and she would turn around and yell, "Stop that," rather than, you know, actually walking over and trying to figure out who just hit who in the head. It was like, you know, kids being assaulted and beaten and living in fear was one of these things where it wasn't an issue, it was an inconvenience to me getting through my day and collecting my paycheck. And there were so many times that I've seen stuff like this in schoolyards, even with other kids, where something horrible would happen and the school, you know, the person in the schoolyard that's watching the kids would just go, "Stop that." And then, like, you know, just go back to what they were doing or the conversation they were having with the other aide. And then when it would happen again, "Stop that." Instead of actually walking over, trying to figure out, hey, who did what? Why were you doing this? Let's do something so that this doesn't happen again. And that stuff, I remember through 13 years of public school in New York City, that stuff virtually never, ever happened. And it's sad when it leads to stuff like this. And the reason that it makes me sad is that, this is pure speculation. I'm just going to be upfront that this is complete and utter speculation. I have no internal knowledge of this case. But I would make a bet that somebody in that school knew the people that were doing this, knew that they were likely to do stuff like this, maybe even knew that it was going on, and just probably, instead of actually investigating and figuring out what's going on and figuring out why this kid is acting the way he is, why is this kid seemingly so sad in my class when he's usually happy, why is he coming in with bruises, just probably looked as something bad was going on and went, "Stop that," and then continued walking on. And like once he was out of view, let the other kids beat the living shit at him. And that, it makes me sad because I you know, there's this romanticized view of making public education available to everybody. But one of the realities is that for many people in the world, the most violence they will ever experience, and the only violence they will ever experience, is within the walls of a public school, which is crazy, but the experience that a lot of people have. And this is just kind of one of those reminders that that's not changing. And when I read the last line of that article, it just drove me nuts because of the amount of times that I have watched as something horrible was either happening or about to happen. And rather than any sort of real actual change, rather than any sort of real investment in the people that were there, it was just kind of like, you know, just "Stop that," or "Hey, that's wrong," or "I'm going to make you stay after class for like a minute or two," but no real, "Hey, you just assaulted someone. You just hit someone in a horrible, like, no, get out of here. No, I'm going to make sure that we follow up on this to make sure this doesn't happen again." It was just no real sense of natural curiosity towards what was going on, and it was highly frustrating. And it's just, the more I read these stories, the more it seems like nothing actually changed. So if you do work in a public school and you see that something horrible is going on, don't just assume that, like, going, hey, cut that out or whatever, like that's it, hey, cut that out. That's the kind of stuff that you say when you have a when someone says a curse word, when someone has their Game Boy out in the middle of class. I'm kind of showing my age there by the fact that my idea of a gaming system is something that doesn't have an internal backlight. There's more that you can do, and there's more that you should do, because you never know when the case is going to evolve into some crazy shit like this. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Not really on the topic of repair or anything else. Just I'll see you on the next video. Bye now. And yeah, this is a sad story. This is the kind of stuff that I really think is like completely preventable, and that's the reason that it's just kind of sad. Anyway, see you later.